Hi, it's Brad Clark, and in this video, step 9, I'm going to show you how to cut your IRA tax bill permanently using a strategy called Roth Conversions. So it can be smart to pay taxes now at a lower rate instead of paying them in the future at a higher rate. So we all are trained to defer taxes, right? That's what we do with IRAs and 401ks. We're deferring taxes. Well, once you retire, you may want to actually accelerate the payment of taxes. And that's somewhat counterintuitive, but it can be very powerful. And that's what Roth conversions are all about. So a Roth conversion is moving some money from a traditional IRA, which is a pre-tax IRA, into a Roth IRA and paying the taxes now instead of paying them later. So there's 5 reasons why your tax rate in the future could be higher than your current tax rate or the tax rate when you retire. In other words, let's say let's say you're retired, you're going to be retiring, and you're retired by 65. Well, your tax rate at 65 could be a lot lower than your tax rate at 75 or 80. And let me try to drill these 5 reasons why that could be true. The first is your Social Security income. When you finally do go on Social Security, it could easily push you up into the next tax bracket. The second are your required minimum distributions. So let's look at an example of this. Let's say you're 65, you got $1.5 million in your IRA or IRAs, and it's invested mostly in stocks, and let's say you enjoy an 8% return in that account on average, and that you have $100,000 of income outside of the IRAs. So this is a very important chart. This is some analysis that I ran, and let me just explain this. Along the bottom is your age. It shows you getting older and older and older. On the left-hand side shows your income. These are your required. This is the income with your required minimum distributions. The RMDs are the amount that the IRS is forcing you to take out of the account every year, whether you want to or not. And since your account is growing, the RMDs are growing. And you can see what happens to the RMDs. The red lines are different tax brackets. So in this projection or illustration, the RMDs are actually pushing you into higher and higher tax brackets as you get older. The third thing that can happen is that, let's say one of you passes away before the other. If you're married, one of you passes away before the other. Well, guess what that's going to do? It's going to push the survivor into a higher tax bracket. If you're making a couple $100,000 a year from Social Security and dividends and other sources, the survivor, right now you're paying maybe a 22%, you're paying taxes at the 22% rate. Well, the survivor may get pushed 10 points higher into the 32% rate. Not something people think about. So it's another reason to take advantage of low tax brackets now. Do the Roth conversions. Take the income now while you're at a low rate instead of taking it later at a higher rate. Another reason taxes could go up is Congress. We have a $26 trillion debt, and it's getting much bigger every day. This chart is one of my favorites. It puts our tax rates in a historical context, right? So taxes, in a historical sense, are kind of on sale at this point. They're relatively low. Another interesting chart. This shows about 30 or 40 countries and shows the tax burden as a percentage of the size of the economy. In the U.S., our tax burden is very low. There's only a couple of countries with a smaller tax burden than ours. I'm not saying we're going to look like France anytime soon. France is 46% on this chart. But I am saying this is another reason, in my opinion, to conclude that tax rates are more likely to go up than they are to go down. I can't guarantee that. I don't know when that's going to happen. But I think there's more room for them to go up than it is for them to go down. And tax management is a risk management problem. And one of the things we can do in risk management from a tax perspective is execute Roth conversions at a low known rate. Finally, your heirs could easily be in a higher tax bracket than you. Let's say one of you passes away at 80, another passes away at 90, and you leave a bunch of money to your heirs. Well, your heirs at that point may still be working, and if they're still working, they're going to be in potentially a much higher tax bracket than you are now. So when you think about wealth across generations, it's another compelling reason to strongly consider a Roth conversion. So let's say you're bought in. How much should you convert? Well, most of my clients fill up their 22% federal bracket, but not all. So you should do some of your own analysis to figure out which bracket to fill up or exactly how much of a conversion to do. So in this last video, we covered Roth conversions. In my next video, step 10, which is the last step, I'm going to cover how to pay your financial advisor.